right, 6:30, we'll call the meeting to order. City of Clear Lake Shores City Council meeting, regular meeting on November 5th, 2019 at 6:30. All members are present, and start off with pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, item number 3, presentation from Mr. Ron Cox from Ron Cox Consulting to speak on the Clear Lake Shore strategic planning. We had a study on that. Ron?
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to come back today, and I was supposed to come last month.
Can you use a microphone, please?
Where is it? So I appreciate the opportunity to come back today. I was supposed to come last month, but I had an unavoidable conflict, so I appreciate Brent and the council allowing me to reschedule. I also want to thank the staff for their participation in this, and Brent and I have worked together considerably on this whole project. In fact, we started this process in May. When I met with him first, we had, if you'll recall, we had the interviews. Well, I interviewed all of the council members as well as the Economic Development Committee members, and learned a lot about what the needs are and those sorts of things. So our time together then, when we came together, I had a little base of information, but also gave the opportunity for everybody to talk about those things together as well. And so I hope you all benefited from that day, and will also benefit from this entire process that we've gone through. So this is not the end of the process. This is still part of the beginning, because what I would like to see is that you carry this through and it just become an annual thing, and from year to year you have these strategic plans. They will help the staff to prepare budgets and recommendations to you consistent with the planning work that you all do. I'm going to start, let's see, what shall I do? Start on page 1. If you'll turn to page 1, I'll read to you beginning. No, not really. If you'll turn to page, let me get to it here. Doesn't have a page number on it. 14, page 14. So the first part, the first 13 or so pages are a summary of a report, if you will, of what we did and how we did it. From a 14 on, this is what I would call the strategic plan. So this synthesizes everything down into what you did and the products of what you did. And then the last thing we'll look at is an example of the implementation plan. So the first thing we did was talk about the vision of the city, and more particularly, we talked about the vision elements on the next page. So most important in my mind are what do you think? What are the key points, the key elements of your vision? You can synthesize that down into a sentence, but we can also talk about that in a much broader term. So how does that work out? So you all help define what those vision elements are: a sustainable community, a balanced place to live, a pedestrian-friendly and mobile community, welcoming, sociable, environmentally sensitive, with a small-town atmosphere. So if you back up, if you take a look at that previous statement, Clear Lake Shore's vision is we are a unique, forward-thinking community that preserves our small-town atmosphere, then this is how, this is what you mean by what you say when you look at the bulleted points, if that makes sense to you. We also took a look at the mission statement. Now, in this case, both the city and the EDC have their mission statements, and so all we wanted to do was to make sure that those were consistent with the philosophy of the community, the philosophy of both the council and the Economic Development Corporation, and make sure they're consistent with the vision statement. We want alignment as we move through this process, and I think you'll see that it is in fact, aligned. The one thing we didn't do, and I've left some TBDs, those are things that we didn't get to, so what I want to do is, in the future, fill in those blanks as we move through, and those are basically placeholders as you work through that. Oh, I forgot to mention, we'll be sending a copy of this to the EDC members as well, by email. And guiding principles will also be a placeholder, is a placeholder. So, as we talked about the governance structure, we wanted to make sure what our vision was. We wanted to look at how we function. And so our governance structure is made up of the key areas of leadership, communication, and expectations. And this applied not just to council, but to the EDC members as well. And so I ask you all to talk about how you will lead, how you will communicate, and what are your expectations. And I'm not going to read that bulleted list back to you, but those are the things that you said that day as we met together in terms of leadership. So that establishes your overall governance model. And I do want to talk about expectations just a little bit, because one of the things that we were able to do in this process were not only to talk about the expectations of the council among themselves and the expectation of the staff, the council's expectations to the staff, but we were also able to talk about expectations between I'm looking back at EDC members here, between the EDC and the city council. And I thought that was a very valuable thing to do, and something that began to better define the relationship between the organizations, between the EDC, between the council, and then further between adding the staff in between all three. And you develop those expectations. And then you can better hold yourselves accountable. You can better hold others accountable as you go through this process. So those expectations are outlined in the document. The governance model then that you've established first leads us from there to the development and the discussion about strategies. Now, in our process, you recall that we did a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, divided everybody into groups, and worked this little building over that day, moving back and forth and doing different things. The results of that SWOT analysis are in the report section so that you can see that and how that unfolded, but I'm not going to go through. The results of that SWOT analysis became looking at these areas of emphasis that are on the screen and in your document on page 23. So all of the opportunities and subsequently the strategies that were developed were centered within these 4 areas of emphasis: economic development, communications, people, and infrastructure. And each one of those then has a guiding principle, or a mini vision statement, if you will, that sort of leads one in developing the strategies. What strategies can we develop that are consistent with those guiding principles, and are those then consistent with the vision? So you're always looking back up in the process. And so you all focused all of your work around these 4 areas of emphasis. So let's take a look at the next slide. Let me see where you've got. Okay, so this is going to be a little harder to read. Yeah, I wish I'd have brought a flashlight so I could read them. But and we'll all, and Ronnie, we'll get copies to everybody email. So this is a little bit harder to read, but what we did was we created a spreadsheet that has the strategies and the action items associated with those strategies, as well as a timeline and then goals. So you had, so for example, in
Brent, can you push escape and then you can see it full screen? A little better? Enlarge it.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work better. So under economic development, the strategic initiative is the Drawer Road area, 1.1. Goals within that are to establish an incentive plan and land use plan to assist in the annexation and development of that available property in that area, assist the extension of Drawer Road itself to 518, establish interlocal agreements with neighboring cities to promote proper land use development consistent with that. So all of those strategies and goals came out of your session together that day. So Brent then, in working with Brent, developed the action steps. If this is what you want us to do as a staff, then this is how we're going to do it. They're not exhaustive, they're not total, but they do hit at a high level the action items that would need to be done. Utilize the EDC to establish that draft plan. Work between the Planning and Zoning Commission and the EDC to develop that annexation plan. And I know the annexation laws have changed, but there's still some ways to get there. It's a little more difficult. The path is more difficult than it was, but not much more difficult for a general law city than what it was, actually. And then work with Galveston County and KEMA in those interlocal agreements. And then you'll see the estimated timeline. One of the things that I cautioned Brent about was making the timeline too short, because sometimes in your excitement, you'll say, oh yeah, we can get that done, and then all of a sudden it takes a little more time. And when you look at the depth of everything that you all covered and how many pages you all have in that report, you find that there's just more out there than what you think. So don't be too aggressive on the timeline, but be realistic at the same time and show progress as you go through that process. So you'll see 20, 21, 22 probably. It might go out to 23 every once in a while. I don't think so, but it's all usually in the 20, 21, 22 range. And unless you just want to go through every one of those, it repeats itself in process. So each of those strategic initiatives have their own number. They all have goals associated with them and action steps and timelines. And some are more detailed than others because there's just not enough information to develop that detail yet. So as Brent prepares progress reports, maybe even on this sheet to add depth to that, then you'll see what's been done through this work. One of the things I know that the group agreed on, the larger group, the economic development and the council agreed on, is that regular meetings together, regular reports with one another was an important thing. I think this can be the conduit for that. The action plan, the implementation plan can be the conduit for those meetings and for those discussions, because as these action steps take place, there's going to be policy questions that come up. There are going to be other kind of directives that they need. There may be some budget issues that come up, and between the two, the board and the council, then those discussion topics get identified, and then they can get addressed as you work your way through that process. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So the last several pages in that report are the implementation plan, each one of them addressing those 4 areas of emphasis. Anything that I can answer for you with this? I know this is a broad overview, and I know this is your first time to see that document, so I don't expect you to adopt it tonight, and nor do I expect you to have a lot of questions unless just something comes to mind.
What type of timeline are you looking at, and then when would we get back together on the guiding principles and mission elements? Because I thought we already talked those in our meeting where we provided them.
We did. You did provide some items that were in my. You know, that's a good point. They were in my PowerPoint. Right. Mm-hmm. But I don't see them here. So let me get those back in there.
And you had 2 PowerPoints. You had the one that you presented and the one that went out the week before that didn't have them. It was the last minute.
Right, and I put those in, and I just saw those just a few minutes ago when I was looking through the PowerPoint that I'd looked at, and we didn't get them in the document, but we'll get them in there. And that would be probably the guiding principles. That's where the guiding principles would go.
I think that's where it was.
And I apologize for missing that. That's my fault, and It just never dawned on me till you asked the question.
And then
So we
just,
can put those in.
you know, just a couple places you miss, Shores. So
Did I really? What did I say?
Clear Lake.
Just says Clear Lake, City of Clear Lake.
So,
We're bigger
are you
now.
gonna cut my pay?
Yeah. You don't get the Shores part.
You got 2/3
So
of your
we'll
pay.
pick that up. Brent, I'm gonna blame Brent. He edited it. No, he and I both looked at it a number of times and
No,
fixed
no, no,
several
it's all
things,
good.
but we found, okay. So we'll scrub it again and,
Where's that? Where?
Emergency Services District Board,
Board.
it would be a
It's
D.
ESB.
Emergency Services,
Board.
it should be board?
Emergency Services Board.
I would've, yeah, I just simply call it the ESD.
Yeah,
Emergency Services District
Yeah, we're board.
Board. There's a board of the district, isn't that
Yes.
right? Yeah,
Service
Okay.
Board, yeah.
yeah. That's up to you all. From this point forward, I was assuming that the staff would begin to work on the implementation once both board and council have adopted it. But if you want to meet again to kind of go through it in more detail, then that's fine too.
No, I think if we have a chance to get those other statements put in there, I think we could send it to each of the individual boards once they review it, and then they'll have it on their agenda to pass. And if it has, providing it has no questions, we just go from there. If there's any
Sure.
questions, we can always come back and
Right.
have a
And
meeting.
we can make sure you have it. I'll have to look at my calendar to see if I think I've got a Tuesday night commitment, quite frankly, Ronnie, I'm sorry. Well, you are important, so there's no doubt about that.
Hey, Ron, I had a question, and you're right, we did have it was a great meeting. We have lofty goals for council and EDC to work more effectively together, and that's what we're deciding on here. And one thing you said when you were addressing the implementation strategies is show progress as you proceed through these. So that would be, how's the how?
How's the how?
Yeah,
How do you
yeah,
do
how's
that?
how do you do, what's
Okay.
the, cause yeah, we wanna do this, but we wanna show that we're either accomplishing what we set out to, or we're falling short of the mark, or what do you recommend the best way is to do that, get together with the EDC on our, quarterly meetings or whatever, and
Yeah.
just sit down? How do you benchmark this?
Yeah, so, meeting together, I think if you do that too often, you're not gonna see enough progress between meetings.
Okay.
So you kinda let the EDC do its work, you all do your work, and then you meet, maybe you wanna meet 2 to 3 times a year,
Okay.
as opposed to 4 times a year. I think my experience has been that it's a lofty goal, but by the time you crank up for a quarterly meeting, you're always cranking up. And so,
Okay.
you probably won't show enough progress. So I would say no more than 3 times a year, with one of those 3 being an annual, retreat setting, if you will, like we did before, with an update, and the other 2 being progress reports.
Okay.
And that's what I would suggest. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I think part of that falls under 2.2, under area of emphasis 2, number communications, where we talk about having regular feedback and
Right.
regular reports from our committees. That includes
Right.
EDC.
Right.
Good point.
We don't get those regularly like we should, and so I think that will help to make sure that we're getting our updates as we need, and making sure that we're
Good point.
facilitating whatever it is that we need to.
Right, and you certainly have more than just the EDC as committees, and that implies all. I mean, that was to address all of your committees and allow you to hear from them, at least, and hear from them in a formal way, at least once a year. I was thinking about more specifically about EDC, since this was a joint report and a joint set of goals, that you all might wanna meet more often together than you might
Correct.
wanna meet with some of the other committees. But I think
Okay.
those are decision points for you all to make. I just think if you're too aggressive in how often you meet, you'll eventually get dissatisfied.
Right,
That
understand.
you're not making any progress, so
Okay.
it just, there's so many of them. Now, likewise, I recommend that Brent, from a staff perspective, give you reports periodically as well. In my report section, I talk about accountability. And in order to keep the plan alive, you've got to hold yourselves and others accountable to that plan. If you don't, what's it gonna do?
Nothing.
It's gonna do nothing. It's gonna
Exactly.
sit on the shelf and
Sit on the
collect
shelf.
dust.
Yep.
Exactly.
And that's what they do when nobody thinks about them from time to time. So it takes a level of self-discipline, but it also, if you put it in writing, this is what we're gonna do, then you're more inclined to do that as well. So I recommend that Brent gives regular reports on that, and he can even adjust the spreadsheet to add a column on actions taken in
That would be good.
2019 or 2020 or whatever the case may be.
Well,
In
and the
fact,
other thing we talked about too as a council is how do these tie back to performance management at the end of the year too? These tie back to our staff's performance, and so that's another way to measure
For the
on how,
goals.
for
Yeah.
the goals on how we're
Right.
doing
Right.
overall. That ties back to that accountability piece.
Absolutely. So and when I was city manager in Friendswood, my annual evaluation, I tied that to the annual report on the strategic plan
Yep.
Awesome.
and how that worked.
Yep.
And so that made it, and then I was fortunate enough, I had a few more staff than what Brent does, but I was able to hold staff accountable for their,
Yep.
relative assignments in that regard. So
Because this is the outline now for everything that we do
Should
with
be.
regard
Should
to
be.
this.
Should
So
be.
then that's how you tie the accountability back, because this is what we decided we want to.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And then we also take this back to the citizens to circle it back
And
Yeah.
once or twice a year.
and that would be with our general meetings.
Well,
So-
like coffee with the mayor or
okay, and then we
like
okay, understand.
Communication with them.
Communication.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
and
Excellent.
it also dots another I.
Yeah.
Another checkbox.
Anything else I can answer for you?
You made us look all organized
Oh,
and
you
stuff.
did. I
Good
mean,
job.
y'all did great. All those silly pieces of paper that you couldn't even read, after I got through writing,
That's
they
amazing.
made sense,
Yeah,
didn't they?
that's great.
We really appreciate all your hard
We
work and
do.
getting back.
Brent's done a great job on this as well. He's followed up. We sat down together and hammered this out one morning. It took several hours to get it done.
Well, we'll
so,
appreciate Brent too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brent.
Anything else, Mr. Mayor?
No, I think, does anybody else have any questions?
Thank you.
All right,
Okay,
thank you.
I'll clean that up, Brent, and get it back to you.
All right, and
Sorry, I let
we'll
you
get
off.
that out to the EDC and all the council. And the, city staff too.
Cool.
Thank you. All right, next we have, reports from council. Councilman Thompson.
I have nothing to report at this time.
All right. Councilwoman Lyons.
I have nothing to report.
All right. Councilwoman Terrell.
Just reminding everybody, Barktoberfest netted $31,000 this year. That's the most that they've ever netted. That's their primary source of income. Yeah. It is the only no-kill shelter, and they use that for a lot of the they receive donations as well, but that's for a lot of the medications, vet staff that they can't, get donations for. So, 31,000. The children's Halloween party this year was hosted by Christy Lyons and Mary Cooney and probably some other people I'm forgetting. You did a great job. It was super cute. The kids had a really fun time here at the clubhouse and then went on to go trick-or-treating. So, we're grateful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Terrell. Councilwoman Bailey.
I don't have anything tonight, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Fenwick.
I hope everybody got out and voted today. When I voted this morning, they said over at Kima, they said that they had steady, and then I think when Jay went to vote this afternoon, they had about over 500 people that voted. So hopefully you all got
That's
out
good.
to vote today, so that was great. And then I have a couple things, but I think you're gonna cover them. The Heart Walk, you're gonna cover, right?
You can cover that.
Oh, I was just gonna remind everybody about the Heart Walk on Saturday. We have a CLS Sunsetters team. There's a challenge among the mayors in Galveston County for that. So if you haven't signed up, go online and do that. There's a link on the city's Facebook page that you can do that and join our walking team. It's 8:30-ish Saturday morning over the boardwalk. It's a lot of fun. They've got a lot of vendors out there, and it's a quick and easy walk. So if you can make it, join us for a walk.
Thank you. And it might be a little chilly that morning.
It
I don't
might
know if
be.
it'll be quick and easy or something.
I've done it before. It is.
Because if I'm running, something's coming after me. All right, so the only things I have is the Thanksgiving dinner on the 16th of November, getting that all put together. And then I just wanted to take a second to talk about the ad hoc committee that I was forming. I've interviewed about 4 of the folks that, 7 or 8 applications I've gotten. The reason for the delay for that is, basically I was able to reach out to MuniCode. Christie's already sent out our ordinances that we've had, in place for about a year and a half, and so those are getting, placed into the existing code with a release package. And then they offer 2 things that they can do. One is a legal review, which they've given us a quote, and I've provided that to Brent, and that's about $3K. And what that basically does is their lawyer and their paralegal goes through it, and they just make sure everything's talking to each other. So it's a lot of the stuff that the ad hoc committee was gonna do. So instead of having them do that, we can actually get that through that service. The last time we had a recodification of our ordinances was in 2007. It cost a little bit more, but if they get in, they didn't see from the first review of it, or just a quick look of it, that it needed recodification. But if they get into it and it does end up being a lot, they'll pull back out and they'll say that we need to go for recodification. We'll look at that. So I'm delaying the announcement of the ad hoc committee for right now, probably for a month or 2, until that's completed and we get the update with the release. And then mainly the ad hoc committee will mainly look at address things like our waterfront leases versus what the ordinances are in the waterfront. Our committees where they're mentioned in 2 places, and that's just 2 items that I know off the top of my head that need to be combined or rewritten in a couple areas. So it'll be a lot less than what I anticipated. So that's all I have. All right, staff reports, Police Department Chief Cook.
Stats for the month of October 2019, the police department conducted 260 traffic contacts, made 5 driving while intoxicated DWI arrests, 8 narcotic related, 1 robbery, 6 thefts, 1 fraud, total arrests including warrant arrests, 46. Made 19 welfare checks, assisted other agencies 8 times, 89 residential checks while on vacation watch, and made 1,425 business checks. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Chief Cook.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, building official Kevin Harrell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Since our last meeting, I've issued 22 permits. For those 22 permits, I've got a new home coming up on 1100 Ivy. I'm sure you've noticed 20 Tyndale is going up. They've been driving pilings the last few days. I had a gentleman come to my office to talk about a new subdivision for our city near the Portofino Harbor. I'm also going to bring attention to a change in the ordinance, more a clarification than a change. I'm going to be bringing that to Planning and Zoning on the 18th. Hopefully we'll be bringing it to you on December 5th meeting. As for code enforcement, I have 2 cases currently and 2 cases resolved. And that's all I have.
Can you elaborate what you're bringing to Planning and Zoning?
It is in our ordinance under R1 zoning. You all know that minimum requirements for a buildable lot is 4,000 square feet and 40 foot of frontage. In the ordinance, it basically states that 40 foot is measured between sidelines. Now, sidelines doesn't necessarily mean property lines. Sidelines basically is the side setbacks. So, if you think about it, if it were a regular 40 by 100 foot lot, and you're measuring the distance from side setbacks, it's 30 feet.
Yeah.
So it would make, now I'm sure their perception was from property lines, but it doesn't read that way. So the clarification is just going to just change the verbiage.
Has this been challenged? Is that why you're bringing it forward?
No,
Okay.
it's been brought forward only because of the new subdivision.
Gotcha.
They're bringing in, it's going to have a cul-de-sac in it, so obviously that 40 foot comes into play.
Yes.
Which spurred me to look further into our ordinance on that particular note.
Okay.
But like I said, it's just a clarification.
Okay.
And you're saying the subdivision is over by Portofino, like homes?
Yes.
How many?
They had 12 lots, averaging size of about 3,000 square foot
Huh.
each home. I did tell them that there was a possibility of a hotel next door, but they didn't seem to bother them a bit.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay. Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, fire chief is not here, and then, Amy's not here with the Galveston County, EMS. We did have a real good, ribbon cutting yesterday. Thanks for everybody that showed up to that, and their, stats are looking pretty good. They're actually down below 3 minutes for calls out here to Clear Lake Shores, so that's awesome. And then, last but not least, City Administrator Brent Spear.
With a multi-page report. So we'll skip over it. You'll see it in the documents available post-meeting. Cobb Finley is continuing to work on engineering plans for our paving projects. We noted that the engineering cost had risen. Historically, it's been around 12-13%, and it's 18 or 19. They're building in, it's not really an engineering thing, they're building in additional inspection for that, because we want to make sure that we have additional inspection on these projects. So that's what's going on. We have several agenda items. I'll skip over those that are starred on my report. However, I'll let you know that True North Marine has completed their renovations and updating, and final payment, their EDC grant, will be paid out. And if you haven't noticed the outdoor signage, especially this time of day when it's dark and it kicks on, it's absolutely beautiful. It's a backlit, really cool, really grabs your attention. So I haven't been through for the walkthrough with Mr. McAndrew, but I plan on doing that soon. I saw it in various states of repair and renovation, so I'm excited to kind of see how it turned out. I submitted some paperwork to the state for eminent domain reports that are required for the EDC and also for Plaza 10. Did a walkthrough on the front parking lot with a landscaper. They will produce a quote that will be presented to EDC, hopefully for approval. I have another quote from another landscaping company, just accumulating those and trying to move forward. To bring you up to date on that parking lot, one of the agenda items is that we have a change. I can wait till that's an agenda item to explain it further if you'd like, but we have a final number there so we can get that handled. Insurance rates from Texas Blue Cross Blue Shield is going to renew it at 5%. That's interesting because they're typically seeing somewhere, I think, between 7 and 12 or 8 and 12. Historically, we're at 5. That's good. Guardian was at 5.3. Our broker on our behalf asked for rate relief and got that down to 3% flat. So we're excited that we came in with those. They're much better than going to the open market, and those will be presented at a later time for your approval. Fire Marshal Service Agreement's been reviewed by City Council and has been sent to Fire Marshal. I got to talk to him briefly yesterday. He has received it, and he's reviewing it. Sales tax revenue for our fiscal year 2019 was down 7.5%. That's a big change from where we started the year, down over 17, so almost 18. Hopefully this year will prove better, and I don't know exactly what to attribute that to. I keep thinking possibly weather-related repairs and things like that played into that. Could also be impact from State Road 146, people coming over the top. The 311 Narcissist lawsuit has been officially dropped, and a Rule 11 agreement was accepted by the courts. That house was taken away in 3 big dumpsters and put somewhere else. But it's a great lot down there. And I think I plan on attending some jurisdiction crisis management classes, working with other community partners, accounting partners in Galveston. That's December 10th, 11th, and 12th. It's a full day program. and I did attend the all hazards workshop with senior officials in Texas City since the last meeting. And the communication specialist job, 4 finalists were identified, 3 were interviewed. I made a decision and have spoken to the person that I think would be best for the job. And before I make any announcements or contact the other candidates, I just want to make sure that our pre-employment items are handled. So we're awaiting some confirmations there. Do you have any questions for me?
Brent, I understand fire marshal agreement will come to council for approval, but I've just been thinking about this since we asked, and we weren't sure. Did we decide that we're going to do payment directly to Chief Hahn, or is that going to go to the Kemah Volunteer Fire Department?
He wanted the funds go to the fire department.
Okay.
So. But the agreement has to be with Chief Hahn because he's the licensed fire marshal.
Okay.
So.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Brent.
Well,
All right, item number 6, public comments. All right, having none. Number 7, new business consent agenda, items A and B.
I'll move to accept the consent agenda.
A second.
Amanda Fenwick made a motion, Christy Lyons second, all in favor? Motion passed, unanimous. All right, number 8, council business discussion and possible action may be taken on the following items. Item A, reappoint 3 positions to the EDC for positions expiring October 31st, 2019. Directors expiring are Charles Scoville, Ronnie Richards, and Michael McNamara. And inside the packet you have the applications, and I believe Charles Scoville and Ronnie Richard resubmitted for remaining on the board, and Michael McNamara withdrew.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Charles Scoville and Ronnie Richards to the Economic Development Corporation and reopen the position for the 3rd director.
Amanda Fenwick made a motion, Christy Lyons second, for Charles Scoville and Ronnie Richard to remain on the board, and then open up the application for the 3rd position again on the city website. And that should come back to next month's council meeting, or?
Yeah.
Okay. December council. All in favor? Unanimous. All right, item B, reappoint 2 positions to the Waterfront Compliance Committee to replace expired positions. Members expiring are Ed Waters and Brad Salta from Maggio. And those 2 positions, they resubmitted and want to remain on the board. And that's all I know.
Make a motion to approve Ed Waters and Brad Salto Formaggio.
I will second that.
Angie Terrell and Jan Bailey second. All in favor? Unanimous? Moving right along. Item C, reappoint 3 positions to the Zoning Board of Adjustments to replace expired positions. Members expired are Alex Scanlon, Joe Schlusky, and Patrick Michalski.
Make a motion to discuss the Zoning Board of Adjustments appointments.
I'll second.
I had a question on this one. We received applications from Alex and Patrick to be reappointed to the committee, but we also received an application from Pan Zutek, who is their chairman. Although, if you look in the packet, it says that her term doesn't expire until September 2020.
That's right.
So I was curious what the situation was there. Okay.
So she stays on automatically, right?
Yeah, she's
So that
on.
definitely is her expiration.
Yeah, she's not expired, so she would stay
So
on.
did
Okay.
Joe, I didn't. He's no. Okay.
So Mary is the application submitted for
So
that position.
Mary, yeah.
Yes.
And then my second question was, Laura Broussard shows her expiration at September 2019. Is it necessary to have an alternate to the ZBOA? And do we need to reopen that position to acquire an alternate since we only have 1 applicant for the ZBOA?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Patrick?
Just to respond to that. It is really necessary to have an alternate, because when somebody comes, they have to pay a submission fee. It's not as much as it was, but if you don't have, it requires at least 4 members to approve. So if you only have 4 members,
Quorum.
Okay, okay.
you really need to always have 5 members whenever somebody comes before the board.
So when we reopen that position, we reopen it as an alternate position? Is that correct, or how does that need to be advertised?
We'd have to get
Yeah, it's open for an alternate.
For an alternate. Okay.
So, yeah, so when we advertise for that, because we'll have to advertise for the other position, Joe's, and
Right.
we can advertise for a position and an alternate. I think is how we approach it.
Well, actually, we don't think we need to advertise for Joe's unless we don't approve Mary, because
Oh, that's
Mary
right,
Cooney.
Mary did
Okay.
apply. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, we just,
Okay.
You're
So
right.
just advertise for.
yes,
Yeah,
so we
that's
just need to
fine.
apply for, have
Okay.
an application for an alternate.
Okay.
You're correct.
Okay. Thanks, Patrick.
I forgot that.
Any more further discussion? You want to amend your motion?
I do want to amend my motion. I'd like to make the motion to approve Patrick Machowski and Alex Scanlon to the ZBOA, as well as Mary Cooney, and advertise for an alternate position.
And bring that back December 5th.
December 5th, yeah.
I'll second what she said.
All right. Angie Terrell made a motion, Amanda Fenwick second, to re-elect to the board Alex Scanlon and Patrick Michalski, and then to put a release out to acquire a person for the alternate position for the December,
And we're appointing Mary.
and appointing Mary to the board also. Cooney.
It's not December 5th, it's December.
All in favor? Unanimous. All right, item D, review and approve change order number 2 of the Clear Lake Road public parking lot in the amount of $48,830, dependent upon Economic Development Corporation approval. Brent?
Trying to mix things up because of our meeting schedule. I didn't want to go to EDC first, then wait again for City Council. We want to move forward with this project, so have City Council approval prior. This, or prior to EDC, but this is change order number 2. The amount of the change order is $48,830, and I believe you got 2 pages of that change order. The big portion of that is something that was unforeseen, and it's a 6-inch manipulation of lime, stabilized subgrade to complete in place, and 6 inches of line stabilized subgrade made up of lime and fly ash, and that's actually blended into the soil to stabilize it. That was the unknown condition with that area. They will also, I call it the volleyball court that is right next to Aspen's. It just kind of tore up and looks like a sand volleyball court to me. That will also be taken care of when they come back to do this additional work. That's a warranty issue, and they've been advised of that. The reason why this took so long is originally they came back to us with about a $70,000 ad, and we've negotiated back and forth with Cobb Finley, and we got it, or Cobb Finley and Teamwork, and we got it below 50,000 was kind of our benchmark that we were shooting for, and we actually got a little less than that. So I would recommend approval of this so we can move forward with EDC and get that project completed, hopefully either later this month or in December, but they are ready to go.
Brett, I have a question, and I apologize. I was not at the last EDC meeting if we addressed it there, so I apologize for that. But $48,830, and that was due to unforeseen circumstances. I understand that, but why was that unforeseen? Are we not relying on the engineer as we should? Is that what happened?
No, we relied on it was an unknown kind of instance there. We had a section of that was previously used as parking lot, a section that was previous slab of a building. Those are all pretty stable.
Okay.
But then you have green space, and so when you get over into the green space and you peel the sod off, you don't know what's underneath there or what was there before. So it was soft. It had a clay bottom. I believe that the problem where the volleyball pit is that's just too deep, and they should have done that in smaller lifts and compacted it differently. So instead of trying to compact a very thick portion of it, they should have done it in smaller lifts and compacted it. And that's typically what you do with asphalt. So that'll be a warranty issue. The other factor is that as far as estimating the amount of the millings that we had on hand, we were short on that. Partially because the millings weren't of good quality, so they had to go out and return those where they're kind of recycled and get new millings and bring them over. So there's additional millings on there as well. Originally it was scheduled for about 2 inches of completed compact surface, and I think they put it down probably at 2.5 or 2 3/4, and they vibrate that and compress it. But we have sections out there that are much thicker, and that was to get the water to flow and towards those drains. We also have there's a lot of in-ground work with the drains, so maybe when they dug that up and put it back, they flipped soil, I don't know. But this should take care of the problem and get us moving in the right direction.
And then
This was the lowest bid when we accepted bids, and I think Ronnie probably has a better memory because I see a lot of numbers, but I want to say that this was in line with another one of the bids that was specified for the same amount of work.
And then just a follow-up question. I understand the milling shortage and some of them weren't good quality. I get that. About the green space, is that something that our engineer or we as a city should have done more testing on, or is that something that you just can't know until you get into it?
Really, it's something. This is a temporary parking lot. It's not, not for an office building or something like that. It's for a temporary, hopefully a temporary need, and temporary may be 10 years. It could be 5. It could be 20. But we're planning for temporary use. To do the geotech and the soil borings, a complete report for that can run up to about $20,000. So that's an additional cost when they'll go out there and core it and conduct their destructive testing and all of that, and then they'll tell you what you have to do to the top. What we did is we utilized, I guess, how do I say this, an employee from a geotech company, not working in an official capacity. However, we did some excavation with the contractor and determined that at least the top 6 inches of that is clay. And based on their knowledge and experience, they felt that this was the best way to do it. And we're trying not to spend more money on top of more money. So this was an effort with them as well.
I understand. And in retrospect, should we have invested that money and known up front? I'm just asking for your opinion, just a Monday morning quarterback what we've done.
In my opinion, I wouldn't have spent the money.
Okay.
I just don't think it is a prudent use.
And the key being because this is a temporary parking lot, so we're trying.
I just kind of keep that in the back and forefront, is that it's temporary. We could also spend more money and do concrete aproning like they did on the previous the farmer's market lot, whatever. So there's concrete apron on the front edge and the back edge, and then in the center it's milling. It's a little different situation in that was a parking lot with boats on it and vehicles for a long time. And so shell, rock, all that got compacted in a pretty good surface. So this is just a little different set of circumstances.
Okay.
And we don't have a lot of green space in the city that we own and would have to work on. So my opinion would be just like we've done and adjust.
Okay.
So I thought in a previous EDC meeting we determined that we missed the mark in not doing the engineering properly.
And the engineering, that's right. That's what
She
I
asked
understood.
We should have.
She asked my opinion. That's
Okay.
why, yeah.
Right.
Is this
So
including
I just
new
wanted to make
engineering?
sure
But
we
but now,
discussed it.
like part of my report, the engineering costs are going up. It's because we're accounting for more on-site inspection.
Right.
And if something happens and this doesn't work, it's
We're-
on Cobb Finley, correct? I mean,
Right.
No.
to
It would be
or
Cobb Finley.
teamwork or whoever to fix. I mean, I just don't want
That's
us
right.
to have to be back in the same position in another 3 months asking for another $50,000.
From what I'm hearing, it's not on Cobb Finley because they didn't do engineering core drills out of it, so.
That's
This
why
is just a guess.
That's why I'm asking the question, because I don't wanna end up here in 3 months again,
Exactly.
That's
dumping
right.
money into this project and getting criticized for it.
Yes.
And this is our only avenue to go down, or is there?
No, to actually have core drillings done and get engineering to say, this is what you need. And I'm also concerned with the area near Aspens too, and would like that roped off, cause it's getting bad where trucks are getting stuck.
where they're digging in.
And I appreciate your opinion and thank you for sharing it. And I'm not trying to drag you into anything. I was just asking what you were thinking. But I'm with Kurt and when we did meet with the EDC, I was thinking that our going forward plan for us as a city is to do things the right way
Engineering,
first.
that's right.
So that we
I
don't
can-
have to come back. And so, and I know 20,000 is a lot of money, but like Amanda and Kurt, all of us are expressing the concern, okay, what about 3 months from now? Oh, we need another 50, we need another 50. I know 20K is a lot, but maybe doing it right the first time, even for a temporary lot,
I
is
can
the
go back
way.
to Cobb Finley. They do have, engineers' estimates for concrete out there. And if you do concrete, then, yeah, the
Well, I don't
contractor.
I don't think
we're saying go to
concrete. No.
We're saying do the right engineering.
But, but that's about 400 and, that was 460,000, I think, so.
Well, I don't think we're saying go to concrete, I think just make
The
sure we get a good
engineering.
foundation. And to prove that with core samples in those areas, not somebody that we don't even have a contract with. 'Cause right now, if we go back in there and do it, and it's not right, we're gonna be at the same thing again. We're gonna have to tear it out, redo the foundation again, and put it back in. And I believe council, or at least myself, would like to do it right.
So how do we get
Yes.
those,
How do we
what
do
you're
it right?
talking about, the core samples into this change? You
Yes.
need to go back to
I'll-
Cobb Finley
I'll-
and have that discussion, and we need
Yep.
to postpone this item to the next agenda?
Absolutely, we can do that.
So moved.
Well, I'll get a, I'll go back to Cobb Finley and get a proposal.
And they
What
were
is in the
also
contract,
same,
though?
they were also the same way when we were looking at putting in the temporary parking lot, that
Right.
this is gonna be, take care of everything, and it's not.
I'm just gun shy. I know nothing about this, and that's why I wanted, more information. I don't know if more information will fix it. Like you're saying, Ronnie, he's saying that this is the way to go, whether we do core samples or not. I don't know, so it's hard for me to make this decision without having all of the information. Do you,
Is-
No, it's just the Aspens area is warranty, the new area is what they're doing the base with, that they have to pull up and put new aggregate back down with.
That, my other question is, what about maintenance? I mean, what are they saying about maintenance and warranty, like you're talking about?
Yeah,
How
there's no
often do we
warranty.
maintain it?
The maintenance is extensive on that. It will,
That's
it will get tore up. It's not asphalt. It's-
Right.
So it will get potholed. It will require hot patching. It will require pothole repair, all of that.
But then at least they can, but at least they can prove this, whether it'll work or not, and then give us a warranty on it. Right now, we're going in blind.
would that give us a warranty if we did core samples?
I don't know.
Do we, okay.
You're asking questions that I can ask them.
I mean, they
Okay.
warranted the area near Aspens and it's coming apart, and then they're not covering the area has the problems because it has a bad foundation when we made bad choices. now we're wanting to make right choices, we want engineering to do that
Mhm.
for us.
Right.
Sure.
That's what I would like engineering to do for us.
I'll have them, identify exactly what their recommendation includes and what type of, warranty is involved with that.
Mayor, am I allowed to ask Ronnie what the EDC, what they wanna do?
Sure.
Ronnie or
to the
Thomas
EDC
or,
though.
I'm just curious,
y'all-
what does the EDC feel going forward? Do you want the core what does the EDC feel is the most prudent way to go forward with this? Do you want the core samples? Or do you feel that just going in with what they're telling us without that? What does the EDC think?
Mhm.
Okay.
So the EDC cannot speak as a whole right now, it's individuals, because you're in a quorum.
Right.
Oh,
Oh, that's right.
Thank
So-
you,
Good
Kurt,
point.
thank you,
Without a,
Yes.
Good point.
oh, okay.
There's,
thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, there's
well, there's
four.
four.
There's
Four.
four.
Mhm. Right. Right.
Mhm.
Yep.
I understand, and I'm in support of that. The temporary parking lot being concrete doesn't
Mhm.
seem to make much sense.
Right.
But I guess my biggest question, Brent, if you could ask them, if we did core samples, would that offer any type of warranty?
Mhm. No.
But we were just
I
told
agree,
that it's
but-
not guaranteed, this extra section. That's what
That's
Brent was
what Brent
saying. Yeah, not
Right.
warranted.
Not guaranteed.
No, I agree with you, Thomas. We do need to rely on our engineers. That's why we pay them. But I just want to make sure the information I'm hearing is that this is what we're telling you. You can rely on us, and if it gets messed up, we're going to fix it.
Mm,
That's what I
right.
want to have in place.
Yeah.
I want a
Yeah.
warranty, yeah. And again, Brent, I'm not jumping on you. I'm just trying to clarify and
I just don't have the
no, and I
the
understand,
information
and I
to answer that.
appreciate you going back and asking them. Thank you.
I'll ask them.
Not meaning to attack you at all. I'm grateful for the work that you're doing for us.
That's
Thank
fine.
you.
Thank you.
So, we need a motion on item D.
I'll motion to postpone to the next meeting based off information Brent can get us from the
I'll second
engineer.
it.
Alright, Amanda Fenwick made a motion, Christie Lyons second, to, table to the next meeting. All in favor? Unanimous. Alright, item E, review and approve energy proposal contract extension at a rate of, I'm not gonna read all the numbers, .03 and then a bunch of numbers, per kilowatt hour.
This is, I think you had this magical page in your packet as well. This is the extended, energy contract the city has. This is for streetlights, for all of our locations. We buy that through a wholesale broker. Currently, our current agreement runs through, April 30th, 2025. So it's out there quite a bit. We can add another 4 years to that contract, and currently we're below 3 cents, or excuse me, below 4 cents, and this would allow for another 4 years below 4 cents per kilowatt hour. And that's kind of a benchmark number. If you can get below 4, that's really good. They're offering a 2-year term, and it's just a little over 4 cents a kilowatt hour. And what's important here is that energy costs aren't going to go any lower, number one. Number two, particularly in this area, the way we're supplied, League City is building out. We have additional construction, and if you remember during some of these hot summer days, you know, they had people that were on plans where they switch providers and then they pay a upcharge for so many kilowatts and all that. We're at that wholesale level, so we're you know, that doesn't happen to us. But they're booking their production based on our long-term contract. So then they can build out their infrastructure to help that. And we're just we're a very small, almost insignificant piece, but we get the advantage of being a city and getting a good rate. So we're not the city of Houston, we're not League City, but I think it makes sense in the long term to lock that in. So I would recommend approving that extended contract through 6/1 of 2029.
Make a motion to approve the energy proposal contract extension at the rate of .03 and all those numbers per kilowatt hour.
I'll second.
All right, Angie Terrell made a motion, Amanda Fenwick second, all in favor? Unanimous. Item F, review and approve proposal submitted by Big Eat Fans for fans installed at Paul Shelley Pavilion in the amount of $13,480.20. Mr. Brent.
All right, this was budgeted for. It was also approved by EDC at their last meeting. This is for it's a very large fan, or two fans actually, and they're low-speed, high-velocity fans. So they don't move real fast, but they move a lot of air, similar to a big windmill. So it was not to exceed 15,000. We got the sales tax factored out. You have the total number there, $13,480.20. That includes installation. This is turnkey, so we don't have to mess with it. And yes, it is warranted, so that stuff will be covered. I would recommend approving that installation.
How did you know that was my question?
I'll motion to approve.
Oh wait, hold on, we got
Sorry.
a question in the audience.
Yes, Alan?
Alan Bass, 1324 Forest. Are these big old fans going to increase any kind of noise? Fans make noise.
Good question.
They're pretty quiet. You may hear the.
Keeping Cameron Garbo in mind.
Yeah, I don't think it'll affect that, other than it will keep people cooler. So.
Or very windy.
And keep the air moving. So.
They have them in a lot of the natatoriums, and they work really well.
Have you ever I've been under a big old fan before, and I've never noticed a noise. But in the natatoriums, do you notice?
No, none
Okay.
at all.
Okay.
And they also have them in equestrian centers.
Oh, okay. So you're not going to spook the horses
So it doesn't
with
spook the
that.
horses.
Yeah. Okay. Good question.
And that's where these were developed. They were developed for equestrian. They come out of Kentucky, so horse barns.
Good place to test that. I'll motion to approve the purchase of two fans. Two big old fans.
Big old fan.
All right, Amanda Fenwick, motion, Chrissy Lyons second, all in favor? Unanimous. All right, item G, ordinance 2019-10, an ordinance adopting amendment number 1 to the approved budget for the city of Clear Lake Shores for the fiscal year 20, increasing the amount in line item 11-1501, wages and salaries due to unforeseen situations, containing findings, providing for severability, and providing other details relating thereto. Mr. Spear.
Okay. Hello again. This is a budget amendment, probably not even necessary because of its amount, but I wanted to make sure that I started out right. When I did the budget, I received information in a spreadsheet from another person and calculated the numbers for the budget, and what it did is it didn't calculate them right. I didn't know that, and so that was sent back. I asked them to review it. They said, nope, it's right, and we did that. So then we started the the process of identifying merit increases, and I noticed we were short. So we had a budget amendment that was done with the same spreadsheet by the person that created it, and it was really out of whack. So that got our attention. That was a $46,000 correction, and that wasn't right. So today we sat down and went through it. We found those problems and readdressed it. The net result is this is a budget amendment of $8,271. It brings the budget in line with the $3,000 pool of money for wages that was agreed to and identified in the budget. And the net result to the budget is that we came in below, based on our anticipated income. We were about $16,000 in the black, and if we factor this out, we're still about $8,000 in the black. So $8,000 over almost 2.6, $2.7 million. It's pretty tight, but we're still good stewards with the money. So I would recommend this approval so we can move forward with our merit increases.
And Brent, going forward, is the issue with the incorrectly
Yes.
calculated spreadsheet fixed?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's now a spreadsheet that I'll
Okay.
maintain. I thought someone else had already done that
So
work.
someone
so it
else
was
was maintaining it before?
Yeah,
and
Cheryl did it, and,
Okay.
and so it's not that she did everything right. She factors out certain things. She's looking for different numbers, and so it calculates reduction in Medicare, retirement, all that. Sorry, I'm getting down into the weeds. Flying higher again. There we go. Yes,
Okay, thank you.
but everything's good.
I'll move to adopt, the budget amendment. Sorry, I don't have the agenda pulled up in front of me.
I'll second.
Ordinance 2019-10.
All right, Amanda Fenwick made a motion, Angie Terrell second. All in favor? Unanimous?
And you probably won't see another one of those till the end of the year, so
Yep.
I'm done with them.
And we probably have one coming for 2019.
And you're gonna have one
right?
coming for fiscal year 19.
All right, item H, final closeout payment from Hurricane Ike in the amount of $51,660.26, made payable to the Texas Division of Emergency Management. I believe Brent's covering, but Kevin might. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I can, it's really simple. We've gone through the project worksheets and the disaster number several times. This was a budgeted number. It was a known item more than a few years ago, I believe. But the net result is that we need to pay back TDM, which is the state agency that can receive that funding, $51,660.26. So we'd like approval to get that taken care of so we can clear that off of our books.
I'll make a motion to issue final closeout payment for Hurricane Ike for $51,660.26.
I'll second. And Brent, I just had a quick question. Was that 51,660? We knew about that, so this is not a surprise.
This goes back several years.
Okay.
Yes, Angie, we actually knew about this before Kurt, when Mike was mayor.
Mhm.
Knew we had to pay it back. At the time, TDM, Texas Department of Emergency Management, did not have a way to pay it back.
Yes, I remember that.
If you
Okay.
yeah, and Amanda remembers.
Yep.
So we were waiting on that process from them so that we could issue that check back to them.
And that money was just sitting, waiting for us to...
Correct. It's been sitting in the general fund since we got it back in Ike.
And so what I'm inferring from what you're saying is now they do have a way to pay back, so if Hurricane Harvey were issued funds that would need to be repaid, there is a way to do that now, or...?
There is, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And it's in the general fund, not the rainy day fund?
I'm not sure if it's in the general fund or the rainy day fund, but
Okay.
it is,
General
it
fund.
is accounted for.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in the regular budget.
Amanda, did you have anything to add? You were here with all of that, isn't it?
No,
Okay.
it's maddening, but that's our federal government for you. Don't even get me started on them. But I remember when that came up, I believe George Jones found it and brought it to our attention. We approved to pay it back, but you're correct. At the time, there was not a a
Right,
method to
there was
do
no
that.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been known for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion, Jan Bailey and Angie Terrell second. All in favor? Unanimous. All right, item I is discussion only of Clear Lake Shores logo. So just in reviewing the logo, for several years I didn't know some of the items are on there, and, figured it out, and so I thought that it'd be neat to go ahead and make a new logo or update it a little bit, and also EDC recently made a logo, and I wanted to incorporate in between the two to include some of the EDC. So it's pretty much the same ship wheel. At the top we bring in the seagulls, and then the other three items you can actually tell what they are.
I had no idea those were birds for the longest time. I mean, these look like birds.
Yeah, it's vector. Well, no, it's actually done in Adobe Illustrator. Yeah, and it's a vector graphic.
I don't know what vector graphic means.
Well, no matter what size you make it, it always has the resolution.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, if you show me what you're wanting, we can get that done. There is a graphics artist doing it.
Did a great job on it, 'cause I really like it.
I like it.
This is not me. I've actually have a graphics artist.
It's a lot cleaner though.
Yeah. I'd like to wear that on a shirt. That
Me
looks
too.
good, yeah.
Yep, all that matches the current logo today, so. Any
Good job.
other comments?
I like it.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yep. Yeah, the only thing would be the middle would be clear probably instead. It's got like a haze to it right now. All right, nothing further. We'll be going into recess. This will be an executive session pursuant of section 551.074 concerning personal matters. It authorizes certain deliberation about officers and employees of the governmental body to be held in an executive session. 1, to deliberate and appoint evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee. City Administrator Brent Spear, Police Chief Kenny Cook, City Secretary Christy Stroop. Item K, in executive session pursuant to section 551.72, authorizes a governmental body to deliberate in executive session on certain matters concerning real property. A governmental body may conduct a closed meeting to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of the real property if deliberation in an open meeting would have detrimental effect on the position of the governmental body in negotiations with a third person.